Pastor Sam Ayedogbon, for instance, yesterday in his church at Okota, in relation to the Deborah Samuel killing, at least the Nigerian church, to an extent, there is a level of awakening, exactly whether it is in the right direction or not. They are becoming a little more politically aware, to the point where you are hearing pastors talking about getting the PVC. But you see, the Nigerian church and the mosque, for that matter, look at the gentleman at the Akpo Legislative Quarters, Digital Imam, for instance. It too came out. There was another imam at the rally yesterday who also spoke extensively to peace. So religion could be a force for good if religious leaders might emerge in place of the current religious rulers. Because it is not only in our public life that we have myopia governing. Even in our religious life, we have blind mices leading congregations, brainwashing people into becoming more or less morons who just follow what the pastors and the imams say without critically thinking through their options and without taking informed decisions when it comes to political leadership in the country. So somebody comes to the church and you are busy laying hand on the person, or somebody is coming to the mosque and you are busy endorsing the person. Question is this: are you endorsing the person simply because they are your co-religionists or based on their record of service? So the Nigerian religionists, whether those be pastors or imams, because they have never heard of a traditionalist lifting somebody's hand to say he's endorsing the person. It's always the Christians and the Muslims. They are the ones who are always jumping forward to come and endorse somebody, but they endorse. All the years they've been endorsing, how many of the people they've endorsed can any one of them proudly stand behind? So when you are endorsing, you must ask yourself first, like you pointed out, in America, Martin Luther King was there, and there is Reverend Al Sharpton, and there were several others who, rising from the Southern Baptist Congress, galvanized the civil rights movement through the 60s and led to black emancipation to a very large extent. But in Nigeria, you'll find the outliers like Sam Adeyemi, for instance. You'll find those who will speak to it, but how many are actually doing something? If we're actually the salt of the earth, it means that we should affect everything we come into contact with. You have churches with congregations running into thousands, tens of thousands. How have they impacted the society in which they are? You can build masterpieces for your church. It might be edifices. You might even tag the road and even have independent power in your own campuses. But the people who sit in your pews on Sundays, how have they impacted the society into which they devolve once they've left the church? Those who come to the mosque, what do they become after they've left the mosque? So we have vacuous religiosity, and it is arising directly from the clergies themselves. The clergies are not asking the questions, and they are also not showing examples. They condone evil. The Nigerian church condones evil, and so does the mosque. Because if we do not condone evil, you cannot have so many religious houses and have so much evil and wickedness overtaking the place. By their fruit you shall know them. What is the fruit of Nigerian religiosity? Look around you. People are coming out of church and they're driving like madmen. They can't even allow each other to go past. They can't even give right of way. They're already driving one way, coming out of the church. Same thing from the mosque. The people who are most likely to scam you are your co-congregants, whether that be in church or in the mosque. So at the end of the day, you find that everybody is busy going to church, they're busy going to mosque. But I doubt that Jesus Christ will recognize himself in the Nigerian church. And even, okay, those ones who have killed Deborah Samuel now, would the Holy Prophet clap for them? Of course not. There is nowhere in the Quran, nowhere, that blasphemy, that death was prescribed for blasphemy. Nowhere in the Quran. Men evolved that tradition. And that tradition is un-Islamic. But it's a cultural thing, and it has been normalized by the evil rulers.
Okay. Oh.
Okay, can we say that part of the cost of this religious followership has deprived the nation of strong and competent leaders? And if yes, how do we correct this? How do we get them back?
That would be to ask if it has deprived us would be an understatement. Today, what do you believe is the quality of brains that took it upon themselves to murder Deborah Samuel? These were our fellow students in a college of education, supposedly intelligent, rational beings. Would those ones ever vote for someone who is not speaking the same language and worshiping the same way as they are? Never.
Never.
Let's deal with Atiku. You asked the question earlier on. Atiku deleted a tweet because he was scared of the political backlash. That should tell us something. The political reality is that what happened to Deborah Samuel is completely normal and acceptable.
Yeah.
Atiku Abubakar, as far as he's concerned, and I'm not talking to him as a person, I'm speaking to the type. He's not the only one. How many of the aspirants came out to condemn what happened unequivocally without even the condemnation issued by the presidency? It left a lot to be desired. So when you begin to look at the different layers that has enabled what we are talking about today, you realize that we are just actually being selectively outraged. There is nothing new about what has happened. Another one almost happened in Bauchi on Friday. And when you read the text of the police commissioner's release and of the police PPRO's release in Bauchi, he said that the thing was caused by an offense of blasphemy. Even the policeman is helping them to legitimize that nonsense by the offense of blasphemy by one lady. Blasphemy. So you then begin to understand that what happened to Deborah is not a one-off. It's a systemic thing. It's normal. It's been tolerated for so long. And the impunity that governs the land has made it possible for it to continue. So it's not really like our situation is intractable, but we have run away from telling ourselves these truths for so long. We've run away from confronting the truth of the pathological hatred that certain people harbor in their spirit for anything that is not reflective of who they are. Once they're looking at something that does not look like them, the next thing is to kill. We have not come to understand that that is what we are dealing with, and we keep sidestepping the issues. The reality is, if we do not reinstitute the rule of law in Nigeria and stop mollycoddling murderers who kill in the name of God and get away with it with impunity, Nigeria is lost if we continue like this.
Wow. So if I may ask, Dele, it took a process to get us to where we are as a nation. And now we are preparing towards another or we're already in the political era again, where we are to elect new leaders, new people to represent us as a nation. Do you have any advice as to how we can begin now? What brought us, the process that brought us to where we are as a nation and as a people? Is there anything you can advise for us as individuals now that we know that this is something that has brought us where we are? What can we begin to do, either as individuals or citizens of Nigeria, to begin to be the cost of religious influence? As in, how can we as Nigerians now remove that cost from us and begin to deliberately gear towards leaders that can actually take us to where we're headed? I don't know if I make sense with that question.
Well, you do, but the question you've asked, it goes beyond the scope of our discussion. And I will say, why I say that is that this is not really going to be dealt with because we dealt with the influence of religion in our politics. It will be because we found the courage to admit that we are lost. If I'm traveling to Badagry and I face the direction of Ekpe, however long I travel towards Badagry, if I don't turn around, I'll never get to Ekpe. Nigeria got lost in 1966. That was when the basis for the creation of Nigeria was truncated. Nigeria would never have been without compromises being made. And the compromises that were made came to the agreement that we would be a state of federating regions. Religion will be kept out of public life. In the northern part of Nigeria, where Muslims preponderate at that time, what happened was that there were further compromises made, principally by Ahmadu Bello. So Sharia was not adopted in deference, full Sharia was not adopted in deference to the Muslims and to the Christians in the northern part of Nigeria. But today, those compromises have been jettisoned without the voice of the people being heard. Today, Nigeria is no longer a federation. It has moved from a federation of 4 regions and become a state of 36 states, where the so-called federal government is creating constituent units, even creating local governments. So if we want to go back to some modicum of peace, we need to step back in time. We need to restructure our country to go back to the foundational agreement that allowed us to be a federation where each region moves at its own pace and keeps religion in the private space.
Yes.
Without doing that, it would amount to us continuing to paper over cracks, painting the house that is tottering and ready to collapse, and nothing more than that. Maybe we'll buy a little time, but eventually it will implode.
Wow. Let's take final comments from the audience and we'll wrap this up. Today I'm not in a good place. Go ahead.
All right. So I have this comment from Daniel, and it's a long one. It says, "Good evening, my dear beautiful sisters of What Are You Saying? #ways. When we talk about the cost of religious influence in the Nigerian politics, it has helped some people due to their own personal greed and selfishness and nothing more. The hunger for power and authority in Nigeria is a serious matter. People know that they cannot deliver, but they want to occupy an office by all means. They only remember God and attending church when they want to satisfy their urge. Like your guest, Dele Faratimi, said, he made my day by saying that we have never had good leadership in Nigeria. In a nutshell, leadership in Nigeria has been a total nightmare and nothing more. God help us in Jesus' name."
Amen.
My name is Daniel Ilo.
Manny, quickly, your
regular
comment.
fan.
Greetings, ladies. I heartily appreciate today's guest because I constantly learn a lot from him each time he is invited. He has said all Nigerians' lives are more religious than godly. Gift of 4 from Luanda, Angola.
Thank you, Gift. Dele Faratimi, we can't thank you enough that every time we call, you always hear us. And we are hoping that we'll keep on driving conversations that will get Nigerians thinking. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, ladies. Now, before we go, do ensure you follow us on Instagrams at Wayshow Africa. You can interact with us further, drop a comment, and more importantly, follow all our engagements on social media. Like, share, invite your families and friends to watch and follow the conversation. There's a lot going on right now, but if you missed today's quote, here it is again. Religion and politics are 2 of the hardest things to talk about, yet they mean so much to us as a people. We have to start finding ways to work around this and finding solutions that would help better our country. We'll see you guys live at 8 p.m. tomorrow as we bring another great conversation to your screen. Enjoy.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408, or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them.
If you no talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 they pay.
How can we have peace without justice?
Plus Politics. It's not just another political conversation, it's about keeping you in the know. The relevant interviews, asking the tough questions to those that matter. Get the answers you need.
Does it mean that the people who were injured, people who were shot at, those who were involved in that stampede are not going to get justice?
It is unfortunate, it is sad that we have a government of deaf and dumb.
Analysis from top experts.
The last election was not really an election.
We feel that Obasanjo has a very special place in his heart for hating Ijaw people.
I think it really boils down to two things. One, trust and accountability.
Plus Politics, every weeknight at 7 p.m. on Plus TV Africa.
Nigeria's federal government has scored one over state governors as the Federal High Court has ruled in favor of financial autonomy for local governments. Are there better days ahead for governance in the country? And is the much talked about third force finally here? 7 political parties have joined forces ahead of the upcoming 2023 general elections. What impact will they have? And we have analysis of the headlines from today's national dailies. Very good morning to you watching The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. And what is a beautiful Tuesday morning, reaching you live from our studios right here at Victoria Island, Lagos. My name is Kofi Bartels alongside Messi Ekpopo. Let's move on with our trending stories, and look, of course, this is where we get to look at what Nigerians have been talking about, especially on social media. And the first interesting one that we have been monitoring happens to be a so-called new phone call tax, a phone call tax set up by the federal government. To hear the government plans to use a tax to fund healthcare. Yeah. A new tax that will be used to fund healthcare and healthcare services to vulnerable Nigerians. And it's sent a lot of tongues wagging and talking. The Nigerian government introducing this new phone call tax. All right, new phone call tax. It's talking about helping Nigerians who cannot afford the cost of Medicare with this tax. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari had said that the National Health Insurance Authority Bill 2022, which he signed sometime last week, will ensure coverage for 83 million poor Nigerians who cannot pay premiums. And of course, there have been a lot of analysis of the previous health insurance regime, which is the NHIS, the National Health Insurance Scheme that has been on for some time now and has been a monumental failure, according to some analysts. It's been a monumental failure, ridden with corruption, ridden with fraud, and whilst billions of naira have been spent or has been spent on the National Health Insurance Scheme, very few Nigerians proportionally have benefited in any way and have health insurance. And this is why this new bill was signed by the president, called the National Health Insurance Authority Bill 2020, now becomes an act, the president having signed that into law. We hear that about 8 in 10 Nigerians do not have health insurance cover. And this really highlights and puts into perspective the monumental failure that the health insurance scheme has been over the past years. A survey was conducted by NOI Polls, and they came up with that particular statistic, and the average Nigerian pays cash when he or she goes to the hospital. Those who work in paid employment or those who try to do something for themselves have the private health insurance schemes to thank for. You know, we have the private health companies who have been doing their own business and doing their work over the past few years. But if you talk about public health and public health insurance coverage, it's basically non-existent. So the federal government is saying this new phone call tax is meant to fund basic healthcare provision in the country. They will use the health insurance levy to fund it. They have what they call the Special Intervention Fund. They have what they call the Healthcare Provision Fund. And then, of course, they're looking at donations and gifts and investment proceeds. So it looks like it's a purely welfarist idea, purely welfarist idea. They're not seeking to take money from Nigerians, bit by bit, as sort of a contributory scheme. It seems that government wants to tax the populace so that they can provide healthcare for the rest of those who cannot afford healthcare in the country. A bit like what you have in the UK with the NHIS over there. Those who have, those who work, those who can earn enough to pay a good tax, they fund the cost of healthcare for the rest of the country. So, with an average of 11 kobo per second, the new law, we're told, implies at least 9% charge on every second of phone calls you make. 9% charge on every second of phone call you make. So you have the average call rate, like I said, being 11%, 11 kobo per second. So if you take about 10% of that, that'll be a 1.1 kobo. I don't think there's anything upon 1 kobo. So that'll be about 1 kobo, for every second of phone call you make, to be able to fund healthcare for the vulnerable in the country. Now, when we're talking about the vulnerable, who are we looking at? Who is the federal government talking about? We're looking at children under the age of 5. We're looking at pregnant women. We're looking at the aged. We're looking at the fiscally challenged. And we're looking at mentally challenged persons as well as indigent people. This from time to time are defined as vulnerable group as far as healthcare is concerned. So a cursory look at the new Health Insurance Authority bill would show in Section 26 of that act that it is written that the federal government will raise funds for groups through various measures, but the sources of the funds can be reviewed by the council. All right, and it requires every Nigerian citizen or Nigerian resident to obtain health insurance. So what I was talking about was the HMO. Yeah, the HMO. But telecoms operators have already been talking about taking their the phone bill up. Nigerians are having to pay for quite a lot, you know, in increased measure. You look at the petrol, you know, cost, you look at the cost of transportation, you look at how much Nigerians pay for electricity. These things have gone up. The cost of transportation is not a government tax, by the way, but, you know, it's connected to what they pay, what you pay for fuel. So some are saying we're paying more for electricity, we're paying more for petrol and diesel, and it's all affecting how much you pay for transportation. The Naira is not doing great. Inflation is on the increase. Should we be paying more for our phone calls? With the oil revenue the country has or makes, with the oil wealth the country has, with the internally generated revenue the country has, with the proceeds, you know, recovered from corruption, shouldn't the government be able to fund healthcare by itself? Or should those who want to take advantage of such a scheme pay for it themselves, no matter how small? The telecommunications companies had last month proposed a 40% tariff increase, and this already was there before the federal government's own, you know, idea of charging 11% per second for every phone call that you and I make to fund healthcare. So at the time, in April, when the private telecoms operators had said they were going to, you know, they were going to implement a 40% or considering a 40% increase in their tariffs, the group had said that the fee for calls would increase from 6 naira 40 kobo to 8 naira 95 kobo, while the price cap for SMS will increase from 4 naira to 5 naira 61 kobo per SMS or per page. And so these are the things that we have to grapple with. It means that whilst they're increasing it by 40%, they would have to add a few more digits to it because of the federal government's own plan to fund healthcare for vulnerable Nigerians through this phone call tax. Let's move on. How can Nigerian youth take over is a question that has been on the lips of some people, especially with the not too young to run idea. And the NSAS protests and the situation of things in the country, a lot of people have been asking how Nigerians can take over. People have been commenting, commentators, analysts, groups, opinion leaders, and all that have been commenting on how Nigerian youth can have a greater participation in the affairs of the country, a greater say in how things are done or run in the country. Well, the United States of America has added its voice to this conversation, and one of the stories that attracted a lot of attention and comments was the United States of America saying that the only way that Nigerian youth can take over leadership of the country is to fully dominate the voting system. So they're saying is to fully dominate the voting system. The U.S. ambassador to Nigeria, Ms. Mary Leonard, stated this at the 13th graduation of the American University in Yola, Adamawa State. That's the American University of Nigeria in Yola, Adamawa State, formerly known as the APTI American University. Well, the American ambassador pointed out that the Nigerian youth population placed them on an advantage to use their votes to decide who becomes the leader. So what she's saying is that we have more youth in the country, you know, and that the numbers are an advantage. So the youth have to use the numbers to get into the voting system and take advantage of those numbers to dominate the voting system. We'll quote her. She said in her words, and I quote, "I can't stress this enough. Voting is the way your voice can be heard. And to ensure that issues that concern you and your community become a priority for lawmakers and elective individuals, it gives you access to those you may wish to end your vote." So this is what the woman said about the youth and their participation in politics and indeed how they can take over the governance system in the country. That's an interesting one. Let's move on and look at what the Nobel laureate Wole Soyinka has been saying. Whenever Kongi, as he's popularly called, speaks, everyone listens because, first of all, you might learn a word or two, new words in English. He has a gift of the gab. You would also get to hear something good, very important points about national life. He doesn't always speak, but when he speaks, he has something important to say. Now, Professor Wole Soyinka, he has raised concern over the perennial insurgency and killings in the northern part of the country. And he's saying that if nothing is done to address the perennial killings, insurgency, the violence in the north of the country, other parts of Nigeria that are peaceful will start witnessing terrorism soon. In other words, he's saying there'll be a gradual move to other parts of the country where you don't have Boko Haram, where you don't have Ansaru, where you don't have ISWAP, or even so-called bandits. We will be seeing terrorism in those parts of the country. And he has said that other relatively peaceful parts of the country will start grappling with this menace in no distant future. And he's saying the government has to do something drastic about this in order to tackle insurgency. And he was speaking at the launch of a memorial publication on the late General Ibrahim Tairu, former chief of defense staff, at the Ladi Kwali Hall in Abuja during the week. And he says the federal government needs to adopt the lateral thinking, what he calls lateral thinking, and new constructs outside the orthodox boxes of military engagement in tackling insurgency. What he's saying, what Wole Soyinka is saying, is the federal government needs to think outside of the box. Think outside of the box and do something about the insurgency in the northern part of the country, else it's going to creep into the peaceful parts of the country. We'll take a quote from him. He said, quote, "The times are not normal and thus require offbeat, lateral thinking and new constructs outside orthodox boxes of military engagements. Above all, let no one imagine that the ongoing insurgency will forever remain within its present borders. It spreads, it contaminates, it breeds mutations in the least expected places." You expect that from Wole Soyinka. But it gives us reason for concern, and it gives us reason to worry, because this is a real threat and it's a real possibility. Think about Boko Haram in Lagos or Boko Haram in Abuja. Where next for Nigeria? The earlier something is done, the better for all of us. This has been a trending segment right here on The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. We'll be right back. When we return, we look at the headlines of the pages of the national dailies with analysis by our guests. Stay with us.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
have peace without justice?
Plus Politics. It's not just another political conversation, it's about keeping you in the know. The relevant interviews, asking the tough questions to those that matter. Get the answers you need. Does it mean that the people who were injured, people who were shot at, those who were involved in that stampede are not going to get justice?
It is unfortunate, it is sad that we have a government of deaf and dumb.
Analysis from top experts.
The last election was not really an election.
We feel that Obasanjo has a very special place in his heart for hating Ijaw people.
I think it really boils down to two things. One, trust and accountability.
Plus Politics, every weeknight at 7 p.m. on Plus TV Africa.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
Right, we have quite interesting headlines on the front pages of today's national dailies, and I'm glad to say at this point our guest analyst this morning is ready. He's a chartered mediator and conciliator, Chris Kehinde Nwandu. Very good morning to you. It's a brand new week. Great to have you back.
Thank you very much, Kofi. It's nice to see you again. Good morning.
All right, fantastic. We also have Mercy Egbopo standing by as well as we go through the headlines on the front pages of the dailies. Mercy, some very interesting headlines, wouldn't you say, and making for quite an interesting conversation this morning.
Well, let's see what Kehinde Nwandu makes of the headlines this morning.
All right. Chris Kehinde Nwandu, let's keep you on ice for a few minutes while we go through these headlines, starting with the Leadership newspaper. A very interesting position or expose by the paper ahead of the APC presidential primaries. I mean, they've not even screened the aspirants yet. We're waiting for that. But it says APC presidential flag bearer Ogbonnaya Onu may be Buhari's dark horse. Ogbonnaya Onu may be Buhari's dark horse, with the rider president to use Onu's choice to pacify the Southeast will present him to other aspirants in a matter of days. Rooting for Onu will be a masterstroke for country's unity at this time, the paper says. Wow. 2 Calabar hotel workers die in their sleep. Hayatuddin, I'm not in politics for personal gain. His posters have been flooding the streets of major cities in the country. Local government funds, states lose as court okays FG's and NFIU's guidelines. States lose as court okays FG and NFIU's guidelines. And PDP primaries, Ishaku, Dankwambo, Turaki, Bolaji Abdullahi, and Ned Woko pick Senate tickets. This is talking about the senatorial primaries of the People's Democratic Party. Court jails dismissed policeman for life for defiling a 9-year-old. Security challenges will soon be over, PMB. And strike, NASU holds emergency meeting today. These are the headlines on the front page of the Leadership newspaper.
Let's shift our attention from the Leadership and look at the Punch newspaper this morning. APC presidential primary, Lagos, Borno lose jumbo delegates again, party chief senatorial poll. It's boldly written on the Punch. Kanu, Katsina, Osun, Oyo, Akwa Ibom, 5 others command numerical strength. And Buhari meets aspirant Wednesday. Reps postpone resumption over primaries. Underneath the bold caption on the Punch, that's what you find. Moving away from the bold headline. States groan over delayed revenue sharing. FAAC meets today. 36 states lose financial autonomy suit against the federal government. And you also find former President Olusegun Obasanjo meets Wike, others seeks justice and fairness. Cashless transaction hits 117.33 trillion naira in 4 months. This is according to the NIBSS. And you also have the NSIA gross net assets by 19% to 920 billion naira. And just before we move away from the Punch this morning, more interesting headlines. Lagos explosion, gas plant owners dies. Lawyer insists on 800 million naira compensation. And 23.3 billion naira fraud, Dasuki case begins afresh after 7 years. I mean, all things are possible. Telecom protests 90 billion naira new phone tax to bill subscribers. You just need to, I mean, I don't even know what to say. But let's see how all of this pans out. Again, sit-at-home order paralyzes Imo and Anambra banks, schools short. What is really going on? And you also have dismissed policeman bags live imprisonment for defiling people. That's 9. Quite unfortunate. You have a lot of pedophiles moving around. But these are some of the headlines we can take this morning on The Punch.
All right, let's go straight to the Nation newspaper with these interesting headlines on its front page. APC primary, Buhari aspirants, governors for high-level talks. What are they going to talk about? Some would say, well, are they going to just allow the delegates to decide? APC primary, Buhari aspirants, governors for high-level talks. Oshibajo, Tinubu 2021. GDP's 3.11% Q1 growth driven by trade telecoms. Emefiele withdraws suit against INEC, AGF. This is his suit against the Independent National Electoral Commission, and he's seeking to be allowed. He was seeking to be allowed to contest the 2023 elections without resigning. NSIA's net assets grew to 919.7 billion naira in 2021. APC's planned screening of Jonathan Emefiele others raises curiosity. The party is saying that even though these persons may not have submitted the forms that were bought for them to it, the APC, they will still screen them. One wonders how they intend to get these persons to the screening venue. All right, at the bottom of the front page, government okays contract to buy more kits for Air Force. Lagos develops off-grid strategy. These are the headlines on the front page of the Nation.
Away from the Nation, we take a look at the Nigerian Tribune. PDP NAS primaries, Otam Banki W, Ango Abdullahi's son, Tegbe Nedwoke, Lai Win, that's what you find there. Sons of Fayoshe, Kashumo also emerge. Underneath the big story this morning, that's what you find. 36 governors lose suit against financial autonomy for local government. 19.4 million Nigerians to face food crisis by August. According to ECHOS, you also have despite tough market, NSIA net asset grew to 919.7 billion naira in 2021. Despite tough market, NSIA's net asset grew to 919.7 billion naira in 2021. COVID-19 not over, WHO warns. Nigeria's GDP grew by 3.11% in the first quarter of 2022. Coalition of 7 political parties in alliance, NCF front, that's what you find, the SDP, the ADC, and the AMP disassociate themselves from the merger. 2 months after attack, flight resumes at Kaduna Airport, and court grants DSS permission to detain terror suspect for 60 days. Presidential ambition, Emefiele withdraws suit against INEC and the Attorney General of the Federation. Too late now to sign Electoral Act Amendment poll, observers tell President Muhammadu Buhari. And you have the APC revised timetable for governors and House of Assembly NAS primaries. The headlines this morning on the Nigerian Tribune.
All right, time to bring in Chris Kende Wandu, a chartered mediator and conciliator at this point. Chris, good morning to you once again. Let's start with a look at this one on the front page of the Nation. It interests me and the audacity of the whole situation. The central bank governor, Godwin Emefiele, withdrawing his suit against INEC and the AGF. He was seeking in the suit to restrain these two bodies or authorities from stopping him from contesting the 2023 elections and as a sitting central bank governor. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, don't forget there was a suit which he instituted against INEC and the AGF trying to determine his ability or qualification or ability to contest the election as a public servant. That action was instituted by his lawyer, and then also there was a suit also somewhere in Delta State, I think Asaba or whatever, where a judge gave him the permission to go ahead with that. But after some time, after a week or two, the judge withdrew that permission as well. So as it were, he had no option than to withdraw this case as it were there. So that, but for me, it's neither here nor there. The fact remains that from the directive given by the president, every public servant appointee of the government that want to contest under the APC had up to Monday last week to be able to withdraw or leave the service. And you could see that some ministers immediately did that and either resigned from the cabinet or those that initially indicated to participate either went ahead to say that they were withdrawing, or those that didn't withdraw continue their job. So, but we've been waiting to see what the president is going to do, because some of the ministers we heard, despite the fact that they've withdrawn from the race, their case is still hanging, and the presidents have not come out categorically to state what will happen. The same with the CBN. It is so worrisome that a man who is judge of the Central Bank of Nigeria is so partisan and is proving to be partisan. This is the first time in the history of Nigeria that this is happening. More so when you have that, that even INEC in itself is finding it difficult and feeling so embarrassed, because all the sensitive materials that will be used for the election is being kept under the watch of the CBN. So if you are going to keep the sensitive materials for election under the care of somebody that has come out to be partisan, who is a member of the political party, then you can imagine what is going to happen if at the end of it all, election is held and the opposing parties lose. That is enough reason for them to go to court, and you might be surprised they might get some kind of justification for their action. So the president has to come out, point clear to say whether Emefiele has to leave or not, and Emefiele has to come out. So, but let's wait. The screening of the candidates for presidential aspirants will start today. Let us see whether Emefiele will be one of those that will be screened or not. Then we can take it off from there.
All right. Before we move on, just a related headline on the front page of The Nation. The APC is saying that they will still go ahead to screen Jonathan, to screen Emefiele and others. These yet individuals never submitted the forms to the party.
Well, it's still on the basis of rumors. We don't know the fact. APC didn't come out with a categorical statement on that. I've never saw any press statement from APC. We don't know if there was one, but if there was one, I would have seen it. There was no categorical statement by APC, either by the National Publicity Secretary, the National Secretary, or the chairman of the party. The only press statement that was made available to us as pressmen was that it was postponed, I think as of Sunday. Then yesterday they came out with another statement that screening will start between today and tomorrow at Transcorp. So let us wait and see. Good Lord Jonathan, we didn't know whether those that collected the form on his behalf submitted or not. Emefiele, we don't know whether he submitted or not. But as I said, between today and tomorrow, we will know those that have been screened. Then we can start assuming. But for now, it's just an assumption. Nobody knows who and who. For Emefiele and Good Lord Jonathan, nobody can say for sure. Even some of those that already withdrew, people like Chris Ngige and one or two other persons, we're also hearing that their name is still there, that they'll be screened. So let's wait and see what happens between today and tomorrow when the screening of the aspirants will be concluded.
All right, let's take a look at the Punch now. On the Punch, you have a headline that talks about the sit-at-home order and the fact that it's paralyzed Imo State and Anambra State. We're looking at the economy of this state now. Mostly you want to say the economy in the southeastern part of Nigeria. Banks shut and schools shut down. I mean, how do we even progress? How do we even get out of this situation when there are reports saying that Nigeria is the capital of, the most poorest people?
Personally, Mercy, I'm tired of talking about this every Monday sit at home. It's practically every time we've been talking about this, it's just like repeating ourselves. They practically said everything that needs to be said, and I don't see anything I don't have any other things to say to this, because over time we have talked about the colossal economic losses in the southeast, occasioned by this Monday sit at home. And not only Monday sit at home, also when any day that Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of IPOB, is going to go there, there's always going to be a sit at home order. IPOB have come out to say that it did not give any directive to that effect, that Southeasterners should go about their normal businesses. So what I'm asking now, who is the person enforcing that? Who is asking that if the man that you say you are trying to protest against and rest of, is saying that he is not behind it, then who is behind it? Then it also means that the leadership within the South has totally failed its people totally, because the reason why people sit at home is not because they really want to sit at home, but because that they know that their lives and property cannot be protected by those in government. The security agents cannot be able to protect them. So if they go out and they get killed or murdered or whatever, then they are on their own. if there's enough protection for everybody within this region, then it will be easier. So it is much easier for anybody to come and say, oh, go about it. The former governor, Obiano, did it before he left. It didn't work at a point. I remember one of this period, you saw him walking around the street and going from one market to another, but people still shut down. When Soludo came in, he gave a flat order that civil servants must be at work, the market must be open. What has happened? Nothing happened. So it is quite unfortunate, because I've always said the time and time again that you don't continue, if you are fighting for a people and you're also trying to impoverish them. The same people you are trying to fight for are the people you are impoverishing. You are people you are stopping from going about their normal businesses, that people you are killing their economy. It has even gone beyond that. What have we seen now? We have seen a lot of killing within the Southeast, and just a few days ago, a lawmaker was beheaded. But this is what we hear of ISIS in those days, something that was very strange to us. We never thought of. Or at times we look at the Boko Haram, when they release some of their videos and rest. But it is happening in the Southeast. That shows you the level of insecurity in this. So you're not just staying as they stay at home on Monday. It has gone beyond that. A lot of people are so afraid to go about their businesses in the Southeast. And that to me is a failure of government. The primary responsibility of every government is the security of life and property. And any government at whatever level, federal, state, or local government that cannot make do, can be seen to be a total failure.
But Chris, you're blaming government for this. I don't know whether you're blaming the federal government or state government, local governments, or all of them. But some would say that this trend was tolerated and even encouraged by some governors in the name of agitations, and that some indigents of the Southeast, residents of the Southeast, also encouraged the trend when it started as a little fire and now it's become a behemoth that cannot be controlled.
Yes, I agree with you. Yes, when it comes to issues like this, there's a saying in my place that it's not just giving a monkey a cup of water to take. You can quickly climb up, give a monkey a cup of water to take. But the problem is, how do you retrieve that cup from the monkey? Because it may take that cup from you and take the water. Instead of jumping from one tree to another, are you going to be jumping with the monkey and the rest of it? So that is the problem we are having. This has become an endemic, and some people are taking full advantage of the situation to cause havoc. Yes, it was an agitation. I personally said the time with that number that as somebody from the Southeast, you cannot just throw the baby with the bad water away. I'm not a member of IPOB, but I resonate with some of the issues raised by someone like Nnamdi Kanu, the issue of marginalization and marginalization of the Southeast, the Igbos and the rest of them. I want a more pragmatic approach to the issue. But some people want to resort to violence, and that is what, because he who rides on a tiger most of the time ends up in the stomach. It is easier for you to start something, but being able to copy it, it's just like our normal student when we're in the university, when we do Aluta, we've talked about Aluta several times, you and I, and being an Aluta guy, yourself. We start an Aluta in the university, we start protest, but before you know it, hoodlums take over the control of that, and it gets out of our control. So while we can be able to control our students, our fellow Aluta, you'll not be able to control agriros and the rest of them that will take advantage of it. This will be the one extorting motorists, doing that, burning down vehicles and the rest of them. The same thing with what is going on. It has totally, those that started this must be able to find a way of coping, because the Southeast is becoming a no-good area for so many people. And that in itself is killing the economy, killing the political and social life of the Southeast. With time, we might just end up being worse than the Northeast as it was in the past.
All right. Let's stay with the Southeast and the agitations of that part of the country to produce the next president of Nigeria. The Leadership newspaper gave some attention to this with its lead story, saying that former Minister of Science and Technology, Ogbonna Yanu, may be President Buhari's dark horse. Now, is this something that you think is possible, and probably did you see this coming, that this man will be a major player as far as the elections or the APC candidature is concerned?
politics is a dynamic thing, and you cannot be able to determine what will happen in the next moment. A day is as long as a year in the life of politics. Anything can change, the dynamic can change at any given point in time. So what I'm just saying is just a conjecture by certain people. Don't forget that every candidate has a way of selling himself, especially through the media, and giving all sorts of reasons. The president came out to say that he has a candidate. He never came out to say who the candidate was. And he has not said he just have barely a few days to the primaries for the presidential candidate of the, and we have close to about 25 or 27 candidates. So I don't know. I'm not a member of APC. We can only but continue to put up these conjectures. But if my own inner thinking from what I've seen so far, there are still several front runners within the APC, and I wouldn't know whether Ogbonnaya is one of them. I've not been seeing him moving around. I don't see how he's able to pick up delegates. I've seen the front runners for me remains Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Yemi Osinbajo, probably the Senate President Ahmed Lawan, former Transportation Minister Amechi, and one or two others. Ogbonnaya on I don't know what is with. But don't forget that in the past, Ogbonnaya was also a presidential candidate of one of the political parties, and he was made to step down for President Muhammadu Buhari then. I think it was during the days of AMPP, CPC, and the rest of them. But if the president, in his wisdom, find him probably that he is the one that he wants to choose, all well and good. But it's just the president. It is the delegates that are going to, and to make it even worse from what we've read from the papers, you can say that statutory delegates will not be part of this primary, except the president signed the amended electoral act as quickly as possible. If it doesn't, the delegates within the APC will reduce from 7,800 or thereabout to about 2,400 or so. That is a large chunk of the. I don't know how the members of the National Assembly made that mistake in the course of passing that bill. They are there to make laws. They have aides who are supposed to help them in putting this thing together. But the 360 members of the House of Representatives and 109 senators overlook issues like the statutory delegates, of which they are also part of. They were not able to muster this and get this within the electoral act, only for them to come and looking at that. I mean, the president is leading, he has made up his mind. If the president doesn't sign it, that means a large chunk of the delegates, it will only be the elected delegates that will be part of the primaries, and that in itself is like shooting themselves on the foot.
All right, let's also take a look at the Punch newspaper. It talks about states groaning over delayed revenue sharing and the fact that you have the FAA meets today. Now, also, with this, it's also been reported, and the complaints coming, especially from the Commissioner of Finance and Benue State, talking about salaries not being paid, as affected salaries being paid for states, and also capital expenditure being carried out. Now, how long will states continue in this pattern? And what can really be done? I mean, how do we grow an economy? How do we even, try to catch up with developed climes if we constantly have states having to be very dependent on federal allocation?
Well, basically, there's nothing new in what they are doing. It has become a daily occurrence. Every month, they'll fight over at FAC, the sharing formula or what is to be shared, deductions, and rest. You see all the commissioners disagreeing with the federal government on the and for me, it's neither here nor there. There's so much, there's dwindling within the fortunes of Nigeria in what we earn. We are not making much progress on a monthly basis. Our foreign earnings continue to do it. And personally, in my personal opinion, I don't seem to bother myself with the state, because the fact remains that until we find a new way of doing things, we'll continue to come to this terrible situation every month. We're a situation where the state government have to depend on the federal government. Close to 90% for their survival. It is not how to grow a country. That is not how to grow an economy. That is not how to grow politically, economically, socially, and otherwise. Because, come to think of it, each of these states have become so moribund that they don't even have, they are not even creative at all. Their IGR, the internally generated revenue, is doing it by day. They are not even doing much to be able to do this, to grow this. So that in itself, where they just sit back every month, I just go to Abuja to go and collect CPF from the federal government, come back and share it within themselves, is not going to help any matter. The governors are not doing what they are supposed to do. Yes, we can say that there's so much problem that economy is not looking up and the rest of them. But you can also be very, very creative in your way of generating. Let me take you back to what happened in the first 4 years of first 8 years when we had General Olusegun Obasanjo as the president of Nigeria, and Lagos State was denied his monthly allocation because of the problem between the federal government or Obasanjo and Bola Ahmed Tinubu. That made the Lagos State government to go back and be able to re-strategize and be able to come out with something robust and a way of internal IGR. At the end of it, your Lagos State, yes, you can say that Lagos State, yes, has the potentials like Rivers State and one or two other states to be able to grow. But they were able to reinvent themselves. And at the end of it, they didn't even need anything from the federal government. But if they have consistently remained just, if not for that issue they had, Lagos State had with federal government, maybe Lagos State today still wouldn't have been like every other state. But you can see Lagos State at any given point in time, whether they're getting anything from federal or not, Lagos State can solely depend on the soil. The same thing I expect these states to do. That is what they need to do. There are a lot they can be able to do to generate. They can go into agriculture for goodness sake. If they go into agriculture, so much, they can make so much money from agriculture. Let us even look at other areas where you can see that the federal government is having a strong goal, area of minerals and the rest of it. There are still other avenues of making money, but they are so lazy, and all they do is just wait. Every month they go to Abuja to share what Abuja have to give and go back to their state and wait till the next month. Until we're able to do the right thing, they will continue to continue with this kind of problem every month, monthly, month in, month out. That will always be the issue. So for them to be able to do the right thing, let them just do the right thing and get creative and find ways of surviving without dependence on the federal government and what's come from PAC.
All right, let's go back a bit to this issue of the All Progressives Congress and the super delegates, as some call them, or statutory delegates, because you raised an important point. But there's also an angle to this, Chris Kende Wando, of Lagos State, who should ordinarily have had 304 delegates now. If the president doesn't sign the amended electoral bill or act, will now have 60 delegates. And it seems that states, from the analysis, states that have more APC officials, that are APC-led in terms of the governance of that state, but have fewer local government areas who have fewer delegates, while states that do not have an APC government but have more local government areas who have more delegates. So, for instance, a state like Lagos that has only 20 local government areas but has a lot of APC appointed officials or elected officials who have only 60 delegates. A state like River State that has more local government areas than Lagos State but doesn't have an APC state government and has fewer APC appointees who have more delegates than Lagos State. How do you think this disadvantage for Lagos State, if the status quo remains, will pan out, especially with the chances of Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the presidential primary?
This will definitely change the dynamics and the calculation in the outcome of the primaries. If it remains, the status quo remains as it were. You know, I said it earlier on. From all indications, without the statutory delegates, the delegates to the primaries of the APC, I'm sure from that of PDP is the same. It's going to be the same thing. It's totally reduced. I say it's going to be from about 7,800 to about 2,400 or a little but not more than
2,300 and something.
Yeah. So you can see that a large chunk of the delegates were not going to participate. And that itself will also affect the fortune of most of the aspirants who are depending on most of these states for some kind of support. Yes, Lagos State is there. From what we've seen, Lagos is maybe about 20, maybe about 30, or Lagos is supposed to have close to about 130. But
304.
Lagos have only 20, but some other states who had a large number of local governments won't be fully really affected. States like Katsina, states like Kano, we still have their numbers. Borno State will be depleted from what we've seen. Borno is moving from, I think, about 7 or 3rd to about 5th within the delegates list. Whereas some states in the southeast and even south may have more delegates than a state like Lagos State that have more local government than Lagos State. So that is the situation. I personally think that it is for the governors to be able to prevail, especially governors of the APC, because they are the one running the government, to be able to prevail on the president to be able to do the needful. The president has not given any reason why he has not signed that list, because that in itself may also exclude him from also voting. A government official.
Yes, but Chris Kennedy, do you believe?
Told me that let the president not sign, it is to the advantage.
Okay.
I don't know what he meant by it is to their own advantage. I don't know what he meant by that. Maybe they are one of those that are not expecting so much from most of these states. So the little that is coming, they might be able to grab. But unless the president signed that amended electoral act as quickly as possible.
Yeah, but Chris, before you go, Chris Kennedy, can you hear me, sir?
Serious problem. Don't forget, most of them paid as much as 100 million to get that to pick up those forms. In the PDP, it was 40 million. And if they're depending on these delegates and they're not going to get them, I wonder where they're going to get the numbers from.
All right, Chris Kennedy, I was asking you for your thoughts on the chances or the effect this will have on Tinubu's aspiration, but I think you tactfully dodged that, so we'll leave that for another day. But we have to go. We want to thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me. Do have a nice day ahead.
Well, that's the size of our conversation this morning. Thank you so much, Chris Kennedy Nwandu, for being part of the Breakfast of the Press. We look forward to having you next week. We'll step on the breaks. When we return, it will be time for us to head straight to our major conversation. First right here, but just before then, let's tell you what happened today in history. Stay with us.
we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them.
If you no talk, then go beat you.
Now 2,500 they pay.
for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Welcome back. The Justice Ian Core of the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja on Monday dismissed a suit filed by the 36 states' attorneys general and the Nigeria Governors Forum seeking to stop the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit from implementing its guidelines on the spending of local governments in the country. The Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, or NFIU, had issued these guidelines in May 2019 to guard against the overbearing influence of state governments in the administration of local governments' monthly allocations, the allocation from what we call the national cake. Well, the guidelines also reduced the cash withdrawal from local government accounts to 500,000 naira daily. But the plaintiffs, the state governments, had argued that the guidelines were in breach of financial autonomy of the various states as enshrined in the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended. Now, what does this judgment mean for the government, local government administration and governance as a whole in Nigeria? Glad to see we have joining us on the breakfast this morning to discuss this. Femi Lawson is a public affairs analyst, and he's also joined by Mark Adebayo, who is also a public affairs analyst. Gentlemen, good morning and thank you very much for your time.
Good morning. Good morning.
And good morning, viewers.
Okay. This is one, the federal government has gotten one over the state governors. Generally, your thoughts on the ruling by Justice Nyanko. I'll start with you, Mark Adebayo.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's quite significant for our democracy and for our governance system. The issue is that if the state governors were sincere in themselves and they are not interested in dipping their hands to what belongs to the local governments, they will not go to court. They will not begin to challenge this type of... Because see, in the 70s and 80s, the local governments were autonomous. You know, in those days when we were growing up, we saw that a local government will have a complete fleet of tractors that they use to give to farmers to go and, you know, plow their farms. You have a complete fleet of graders to grade roads. Local governments were grading roads, were maintaining roads, so they had the resources directly from the center until the governors and the state governments took it over. Unfortunately, the section 162 of the Constitution, 1999 Constitution as amended, which is a military decree in any way, did not see Nigeria as a federation, and therefore went and created this joint account between the local government and the states. And the state governors believe that whatever belongs to the local government is their pocket money. So they just give the local governments maybe 5%, 10% of what comes to them normally, which is what is allocated to them. There's only one state that I know of, which is Kogi State, you know, that has given local government autonomy, has given the judiciary autonomy, you know. I wonder why, I mean, the governor forum went to court, but I'm sure the Kogi State government will not be part of that suit. Why? Because it has given autonomy to local government under the administration of Governor Yaya Bello long ago. So everything that comes goes directly to the local government in Kogi State. So I thought other states will borrow from that leave, and then there's no need. If you are sincere about governance, I don't need challenging that. And that's why I give kudos to Governor Yaya Bello of Kogi State for having done his role. And that is one of the reasons that some of us who are clamoring for restructuring of this country believe that what Yaya Bello is doing in Kogi State in terms of autonomy of local government and the judiciary is in tandem with the restructuring clamoring in this country. Why would you want to sit on the allocations of local government? Why would you want to, if you are sincere about development at the local level, and you know that the closest arm of government to the people are the local governments? Why would anybody want to begin to, you know, take what belongs to them? It is not fair. And I am happy with his lordship, with our lordship, for giving that judgment. And I think it will go the whole work. They are likely to challenge it, but even up to the Supreme Court, justice shall prevail. The local government deserve the allocations that come to them, and state government had better remove their hands from it. You know, and that is why, you know, they enslave the local governments, because in the joint account, the states have overbearing influence on what goes to what, or what goes to who. They just give them whatever they want to give them. Now, that is why governance is going down at the local level. Like I told you, local governments were maintaining dispensaries, local hospitals, local governments were maintaining roads, local governments were having farms, local governments were supporting farmers. A whole fleet of graders and tractors belonged to local government. During the Babangida regime, that was a military regime, was the best time for local government in this country. You discovered that local government had resources to develop their localities, and they did it, and we saw the development, we saw what's happening. But today, the local governments have become slaves and errand boys of the governors. They cannot. In a federation, we have the federal government, we have the state government, we have the local government. So each must take what belongs to it without the overbearing influence of another arm of government dictating and determining what goes to you and how you spend your money. The local government is the closest to the people and must be allowed to function.
All right.
So, without going
Mark Adebayo, yes.
What do you call it? Any presidential order. You know, it is being practiced in Kogi State. Why can't other
Mark Adebayo, let's bring in Femi Lawson at this point.
Rightfully and legally belongs to them.
Okay, Mark Adebayo, let's have Femi Lawson come in as well and share his thoughts. Do we have Femi Lawson?
Yes.
All right, so Femi Lawson, what are your thoughts on this? He's talked about the fact that, I mean, the overbearing force of state government over this local government is because they have no respect. You know, they have no respect for governance. Would you say that's the case, or is the case that the 1999 Constitution itself is not very explicit? I mean, you have a lot of lacunas there are no specifics?
Well, good morning once again. One of the major factors responsible for some of these things that we witness in our democracy, including the audacity of governors to challenge a decision to allow local government to take their money, is because of the very faulty and inconsistent constitution that the country operates today. You must always understand that until we really go back and have a people constitution that will really give autonomy not only to local government but to every other federative state. Today, what the governors are trying to do is similar to what even the federal government itself is doing. Every 30 days, the states have to go cap in hand to Abuja to get money to run their states. So, and this is not even most times determined by the states, but the federal government sits in Abuja and decide an appropriate percentages that is due for local government, that is due for state government, because we have a federation that is not truly federal. If the states are able to generate resources and give return to federal, the local government are also able to do the same and give return to state. Nobody will be interested in the Bambiala kind of democracy that we're telling you. What the local government to continually pocket the state government rather to continually openly demonstrate what the local government represents in Nigeria today. Today, the local governments are practically appendages of the various governors. The chairman cannot operate. They cannot even approve impress without going to see the governor, and in the worst case, the wives of the governor. That is how bad it has become. And that is why this ruling is very significant. But we cannot stop at the merits of this ruling. We must, as Nigerians, demand true independence from every level of government. The local government is a creation of the Constitution. It is not a creation of one governor or his wife. And it must so be respected as a level of government in Nigeria by allowing it to run independently, of course, with supervision from the state or, of course, whatever authority. But reducing the local government to a level that you have to determine where the chairman can pay salary, what can be bought, what function they can perform, is so ridiculous, and I think that is why the judgment is commendable.
All right. Whilst making a case for themselves, of course, the attorneys general of the 36 states on behalf of their governments and the Nigerian Governors Forum took the federal government and the NFIU to court. Now, the argument they were making was that the guidelines by the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit were in breach of financial autonomy for the states, is what they're saying. I'll come back to you, Mark Adebayo. They're saying that these guidelines are in breach of the principle as enshrined in the Nigerian Constitution of financial autonomy for the states. What do you say to this?
It's a suit premised on greed. If the states are conscious of the constitutionally guaranteed autonomy financially, and the local government is not also entitled, are these resources allocated to the local government coming from the state? Does the state allocate, local finances to the local government? These allocations are taken from the central purse, from the federation account. It is not from the state's account. And that is why you cannot say the federal government should not be interested in how resources taken from its purse are, judiciously expended. Okay. Even though some of us are opposed continuously to the fact that the federal government have to feed the state and the local government, when the resources are in return generated from this local government and the state. And that's why we keep clamoring for the restructuring of this country. Okay. But be that as it may, if it is on the basis of the system where the federal government allocates, give you resources, then what autonomy are you talking about?
All right. Femi, let's bring in Mark at this point. Yes. Mark, your thoughts on this as well. You've heard from your counterpart, Femi. The governors of the states are talking about their own financial independence or autonomy as enshrined in the Constitution as a reason to deny the local government's financial autonomy.
That is why I said...
Yeah, you know, that question was addressed to Mark Adebayo, sir.
Well, you know, the governors are not being sincere. At least the governors who are involved in this suit are not being sincere. Of course, they went to court on behalf of the Nigerian Governors Forum. But like I said the other time, it's not all the governors that are interested in this case. I'm sure Kogi State that have been practicing local government autonomy for some years now that Yabelo will not be interested in that. You know, the thing is this. The governors have become so disrespectful of the local government level that, you know, in spite of the judgment of the Supreme Court that said clearly that governors have no right, have no authority or power to dissolve elected local councils. They still engage in it illegally or constitutionally. You know, despite the Supreme Court ruling that said that, look, you cannot, that the governor have, well, that was what happened during the Hedioha in Imo State, you know, the former governor of Hedioha. He just went there and dissolved all the elected local council before he came on board, and he dissolved it with impunity, you understand? So they cannot, the issue of autonomy of whatsoever, it has nothing to do with local government autonomy. Are you aware that most of the internally generated revenues of every state is being generated by local government? Yes, the state will still take it from them. Most of the internally generated revenue are generated by the local councils, but they are taken away because of this joint account, and they do not have the power to draw from that account. It is unfair. How can you have a joint account that you don't have a right to draw from? That is where the states now superimpose themselves upon the local councils. You know, so if they are saying that the state autonomy, if they are talking about state autonomy, they should also talk about local government autonomy. Like I said, Nigeria was not like this. Local councils had their own resources. Local councils had their own budget. They had everything. It's not as if the state will dictate to them what to do. They know their priorities. They were maintaining roads. You know, it was, you know, in those days, you don't have bushy roads. You know, it is the local councils that clear the bushes, both left and right, and when you are traveling, you see the roads clearly. It was local government. It was because of the depreciation of the local government responsibilities and authority that made many communities now to be backward. Local councils were maintaining schools, they were maintaining toilets, they were maintaining parks, they were maintaining garages. Now they don't have the capacity to do that. All they do now is to collect the little that comes to them and pay salaries. That's what they do now. Is that what local governments are set up to do? We were going when we were young, we were going to local government dispensaries. Now there's none anywhere. There's none anywhere. So whoever comes to equity must come with justice. You cannot have, or whoever sees justice must have equity in his mind. You cannot have a situation whereby the state are clamoring for autonomy from federal government while they are denying same arm of government. Now you have Ministry of Local Government Affairs, which can superintend or, if you like, monitor the activities of local councils, but not to the extent that they will be deprived of their constitutional authority to autonomy to financially determine what happens in their local councils. You don't have to have a governor that has turned the local government chairman into his errand boys. No, we cannot have such a situation. Let each local government determine its fate and the trajectory of its development. That is the argument, and that is
all right.
So it is not about. It does not affect the fact that the federal government is saying that stop taking from what belongs to local council does not affect the fact that the state has their autonomy. But the federal government is trying to protect the interest and the integrity of the local councils. That is what is happening.
All right, let's have Femi Lawson back on board. Femi Lawson, what would we make of this situation? I mean, now that the federal government has actually won the suit against state government, what does this really translate into? Does this mean now that it's going to be good news for local government?
This is supposed to be good news for the local government system in Nigeria, but I'm not excited really yet because the Nigerian governors, except for a very few, have become known for being very disobedient, of rulings of the court. Just like Omemak said, as we speak here today, no governor in Nigeria has the authority, to dissolve democratically elected local government officials. But as we speak, a lot of states are still governed by caretakers appointed by governors. Arbitrarily, they hide under the immunity clause to disobey the rulings of the court, including the highest court of the land, the Supreme Court. And that is why some of us do not really feel excited enough to believe that they will obey this ruling. Because the governors in Nigeria, majority of them have become known. And it is very exciting, just like Omemark said, to realize that very few governors, could give you an example, have demonstrated the need for the independence of the local government. And that is why today you can find local governments in Kogi State performing functions of local government like constructing local roads, embarking on agricultural development projects, running basic health centers, like you can see across the state. But the majority of these governors are not ready to take a cue from this. We believe so much, in disobeying this. I know they will appeal this, but even when there are other rulings, there is usually the tendency for them not to obey this decision of the court, hiding under their immunity. But I know that as Nigerians, we continue to demand that the right thing is done, and that is when we can get it right.
So, but what's the essence of saying that we're a federation, and of course we practice a federal system of government when you can have, you have the federal government, you have the state government, and then you have the local government in its real sense. They're not acting independently. So what's the essence of saying that we're a federal government? Or we practice
our type of federation, is a federation in letter, in theory. Nigeria does not practice a truly federal system. And that is why, for those of us who believe that Nigeria must restructure, the first cardinal principle that we believe this country must uphold is the principle of true federalism. You cannot say you are operating a federation, a federal government, where one level of government has become so powerful and so dominant over the others. Today, we have a federal government that is so dominant over the state in a system where, even a governor of the state cannot give order to a divisional police officer in your neighborhood. That is not a truly federal system. And that is the same tendency that the state government has continued to exhibit over the local government. And that is why today, the local governments have become practically reduced to arms of or extensions of the governor's offices. And that is why we must continue to demand for the restructuring of Nigeria along the path of true federalism. Because we continue to have issues like these characteristics of our governors and some other issues that negate the principle of democracy and true federalism if we don't restructure this country and come out with a people's constitution that will guide us.
Mark Adebayo, there is a school of thought, and I'm sure this is some of what you and Femi Lawson have been trying to point out today, that says that the reason why the local government administration in the country and the local government chairmen in different states are subservient to their governors, and the governors can dictate to them what to do with their funds and what to do, in the running of their local government areas, is simply because he or she who pays the piper dictates the tune. And that this is not just a financial issue, this is also a political issue, because it will determine where or how the governors control the local government chairman. Now, some would argue, it could be argued, that even with this victory at the Federal High Court of Milord, the Honorable Justice Inyang Ekwo, that even with this victory, that the governors will still dictate to the local government chairman, simply because of this thing called SIEC, State Independent Electoral Commission, which in the real sense of the word is debatable whether they are independent. Will anything change even with this ruling, as we still have the state governments controlling the local government elections? Mark Adebayo, over to you.
I align my thought with what Femi just said, because governors and some government authorities in this country are notorious for disobeying court orders and court rulings. So that is not, but at least let us have it on paper that is the law. That is the law. That is the status quo that must be maintained. If any governor to do at the level of city, that local governments have autonomy, have financial autonomy over their affairs, like you said, state independent electoral commissions. Of course, the issue is that many of these local government chairmen are likely to be blackmailed in advance before they even get to office. Because if you do not cooperate with your governor, if you not allow him to take what he wants from your local government, he probably will have a way of dealing with you, or even orchestrating your removal from office. That is the kind of politics of atrocious politics that we play in this country. But the most important is that the court has given a ruling. I know that the governors will go ahead and appeal it. So we'll see what happens at the level of Supreme Court, because they're going to get to the Supreme Court. I know that NFIU is not going to also give up. The federal government is not going to give up. Well, if they appeal, they will also go and meet them there. At the end of the day, the overwhelming gamut of opinion, of public opinion, is to the effect that local governments must have financial autonomy, that they must have autonomy from the overbearing control of the governors. But without us achieving that, development at the local government level will not happen. And if it doesn't happen at the local government level, it's not going to happen at state level.
All right. Okay.
The local government have been so incapacitated that they cannot do anything.
Mark Adeboye, but
cannot have it to continue like that.
I'd like to put it this way, and I'll throw the same question to Femi. It was Kwame Nkrumah, the founding father and first president of Ghana, which was the first country to be independent sub-Saharan Africa, who said that the independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it is linked with the total emancipation of the African continent. Will this judgment have any meaning, or will it be meaningless without a political autonomy or political independence, or truly independent local government elections in the country?
If you follow the recommendations of the 2014 National Political Conference, which some of us are continuing to clamor that the administration in Nigeria today, implement, you realize that a lot of questions around what we are confronting today have been answered by those patriotic Nigerians who sat at the 2014 National Conference. Coincidentally, a lot of people who are in position today were also part of that conference, because I recall that the APC as a party sent representation from all the state government by the party to the conference. Part of the recommendation was to take the power, of local government election away from the states. You see, you cannot continue to have a system where the state conduct elections into the local government and have truly independent local government. Because from the point of electing candidates to the point of electing candidates, you realize that they bring people who are so, who have been made to be dogmatically loyal and of course committed to them, and they can do anything with the local government system. Let me give you an instance. The last election into the local councils in the FCT here was conducted, constitutionally it's the INEC that conducts election into local government in the FCT. You find the opposition party, PDP, winning election in the capital of the capital's territory, that is the Abuja Municipal Area Council, where the seat of power is located, where the state house is located, where all the federal ministries are located, won by the opposition PDP. And that is what, to tell when you talk about conducting credible elections and independent elections into local government. But as long as these elections are conducted by the state independent electoral, can you imagine why we conduct election into 280 wards, 30 local governments in the state, and not a single councillorship seat will be won by the opposition? Is that how unpopular opposition participation has become in our democracy? It is because these governors just sit in the comfort of their bedroom, take coffee and bread, and write names of people who become councillors and chairmen, and that is all, without giving regard to the power of the people to elect candidates of their choice.
Right. Gentlemen, we have to go.
Practically appointed and not really elected by the people, get into position, they become stooges of the establishment to the extent that these governors can dictate.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. We have to go. We have to go. So, Femi Lawson, I guess what you're saying is that until we have truly independent elections in local government, this financial autonomy may not achieve the desired results. I guess that's what you're saying.
That is very key.
Okay, we have to go. Thank you very much, Mark Adebayo. Thank you much, Femi Lawson, both public affairs analysts, for your expert and opinion on the breakfast this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, when we come back from the break, we have more discussions ahead on the breakfast this morning. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
How can we have peace without justice?
Plus politics. It's not just another political conversation, it's about keeping you in the know. The relevant interviews, asking the tough questions to those that matter. Get the answers you need. Does it mean that the people who were injured, people who were shot at, those who were involved in that stampede are not going to get justice?
It is unfortunate, it is sad that we have a government of deaf and dumb.
Analysis from top experts.
The last election was not really an election.
We feel that Obasanjo has a very special place in his heart for hating Ijaw people.
I think it really boils down to two things. One, trust and accountability.
Plus Politics, every weeknight at 7 p.m. on Plus TV Africa.
It's a breakfast on Plus TV Africa. We look at the emergence of the third force in Nigeria ahead of the 2023 national elections. Now, the much talked about third force finally would be, do we have it here? 7 political parties joined forces ahead of the upcoming 2023 general elections, all in a bid to put up a stronger fight against the all-ruling Progressive Congress, the APC, and a frontline opposition, People's Democratic Party, the PDP. Now, the parties in the coalition are the New Nigeria's People's Party, the NNPP, the African Democratic Congress, ADC, the Social Democratic Party, the SDP, the Allied People's Movement, the APM, and the People's Redemption Party, the PRP, the Labour Party, that's the LP, and the National Rescue Movement, the NRM. Also, looking at that, you have at least 5 political parties denying having agreement with the Third Force movement or any other group to present a joint presidential candidate in 2023 elections. We do have 5 gentlemen joining the conversation this morning. Dr. Kach Onunuju, a political scientist and analyst. It's good to have you join us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So we also have Nika Gule, who's a public affairs analyst, joining the conversation this morning.
Thank you very much, and good morning to you in the studios, and good morning to our viewers.
All right, so let's start off with Dr. Kach Onunuju. Do you see a repetition of what happened in 2015 happening in 2023? Now that you have, seemingly a third force.
Third force is a speculative insertion. It has not yet happened. For me to take anyone seriously, you need to show me capacity. So far, the parties you're talking about are parties without any elected member. So until we see parties that have won election form this kind of third force, that's it. I've looked at what's there. I've seen NPP. I have also seen SDP. Yes, this may have been hurriedly put together, but would they have cohesion? If they do have, who are the members? Who are the arrowheads? A lot of what you're seeing calling themselves third force, from what I see, are disgruntled Buhari's allies who were disappointed. Some of these people are the people who formed the coalition known as the APC, and they have now seen how very, very blind their strategies were. Buhari took them there, he let them down, and now some of them are running off and saying third force. Don't take them seriously, please. I see the main issues they're going in the two main parties as they are struggling right now for the soul of the country. If anything is to be seen, I will see it inside the two main parties. What you calling third force, I don't think anybody who's serious should take them seriously. These are principally members of the APC who are not happy. So I expect a progression of that anger in the APC to actually escalate as Buhari sets intentions to undermine the primary process, and as he did in choosing the chairman, he will also impose a presidential candidate. That is when I will now see reactions which could now lead me to say we might have a gathering of those who are not happy, and if that's what you call third force, we will see that. But right now, I have not seen the third force. What I see are disgruntled APC members who are trying to organize themselves in different platforms. But then, what makes it very difficult is electoral act. Because if we are also waiting for what I've just said to happen, which is those who lose out after Buhari imposes a candidate on the APC, you understand the Electoral Act currently says that if you run for elections and go through the primaries on party A, in this case APC, and then you leave APC, you will not be available for the 2023 election on another party. So the right thing to do is to leave the party now and don't go through with the imposition, which I believe the document 18 on the APC nomination form forces them to do. Please don't call these people. Call me the name, two people who you will say are not disgruntled members of the APC in what you're now talking about, the gathering of these who are angry. Okay. I don't want to take them seriously. Just forget them.
Yeah, Nick Agule, you listen to Kacha Nunujo, who says that they have not this so-called third force. They haven't won. They don't have a single seat anywhere, a single elected position. A group of disgruntled APC members who are looking for the next best thing to a platform to win an election on. Whilst they may not have a chance for the presidency, is it possible that they can start something and be a third force, a force for pressure, political force, an alternative, a rising sun of sorts in the Nigerian political space? We look at the NNPP, where you have Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso basically taking over the party structure, and now he is a strongman of Kano politics, has been joined by his brother from another strongman in Kano politics, Shekarau, in the same NNPP. You have some known names and respected politicians in the SDP. Can they make an impact, no matter how small?
Thank you for that question. Certainly, they can make an impact. Certainly, they can make an impact, but not at the national level. So to that extent, I agree with Dr. Kach that this may be efforts a bit too late in the run-up in the run-up to the 2023 elections, but it is certainly a step in the right direction. This is what we call democracy. In a democracy, the more choices the people have, the better the deepening of democracy. So if people are guaranteed their freedom of association under our constitution, then I would say that these politicians that have come together to form this third force aren't doing anything wrong. They are doing what is legal, they are doing what is their democratic right, and they are free to go ahead and do this. But in agreement with Dr. Catch is that this third force will not be effective at the national level at this time of the day. Our politicians need to understand that running for an election doesn't have to start when it is months or weeks away from the election. We have politicians that show up on the scene for elections, and after the elections are over, they disappear into the oblivion, only for them to show up again when it is close to the election. My advice to politicians in Nigeria is that be on the scene right from the beginning. So when in 2023 we inaugurate a new government, be on the scene. Form yourself into a shadow government if you want. Criticize government policy. Be there for the people. When the government is issuing pain to the people, you should be issuing palliatives to the people. You should be the alternative voice. You should be there all the way through the 4 years so that the people will come to believe in you. They will come to see in you an alternative. And then when it is time for elections, you can then cash in on that support base that you built over that 4-year period. So this is not a question of I form a coalition, we run an election, we don't win the election, we all go our ways, go and do our things, and then when it is time for campaigns, we come back onto the same. So that would be my advice. But this third force that has been formed is going to, if they keep themselves together, and like Catch said, if they don't self-destruct, because that is one of the risks that these hastily packaged coalitions have. These are people who are strange bedfellows coming together with the idea that they want to seize power. Now, are they going to be cohesive? Are they going to agree? Are they going to relegate their own personal interest for the interest of the people, for the interest of the majority? That is the question that needs to be answered. But like in Kano, you have two strong men, like Raleigh said, in the Kano political scene who are in this third force. So they could probably make an inroad into Kano and into some other areas. And actually, that is actually the basic building blocks of forming a third force. You have to start right from the local government to state assemblies, to governors, to National Assembly members, and build yourself up before you can actually think of having a chance at the presidency. As it stands, this third force has no chance at the presidency, but they could have a chance at the local elections.
Can they really have a chance? Let's also have, Catch Onunuju is still with us this morning. With the fact that you have about 5 political parties denying any involvement or any association with any movement to form this force for the elections in 2023, will there even be any chance of a third force with all of this happening? I mean, you have the NNPP, the PRP, the ZLP, among others, saying, hey, we have no business with any third force.
Well, first you need to look at national politics. Nationally, we have 774 local governments. In those places, you have 8,400 plus national political wards. In that, you have from 120,000 to 200,000 polling booths. So if you now have a party that will be able to harvest votes cast at the presidential election, you need a party with more than 200,000 persons. If now all the 200,000 become agents, that means all the polling booths will have at least one member of that party in each polling booth across the 774 local governments. But what you now have, mushroom, briefcase issues, that Kwankwaso is angry in Kanu because it's finally been outplayed. He made some very, very, very blind calculations, and he got into a pit in Kanu, and that's why you've seen he's stuck in Kanu. So the best he can do is to use the NMPP to run local Kanu elections like House of Assembly, House of Rep, or Senate, but not national. Secondly, he's not even agreeable to a lot of people across the country. The kind of politics he did, remember the killing of the electoral officer in Kano while he was governor, and that was part of the conspiracies they brought together to bring the PDP down. The same APC he ran to and brought Buhari to power is the APC he's running away from. Who again would trust him after what he has done for his own party? You know what the Cosa Nostra does in Italy? If they see a man that kills his boss to come and join them, they will never trust you. So those who undermine the PDP to bring Buhari and then run back to PDP and seeking ticket. No, if you want to know what to, look at the pictures that came from London yesterday. Peter Obi is being embraced by Downing Street. Same way he's been embraced by Washington. That is what is big on the political scene, not noise by angry old men. Those things don't make sense. It is the Downing Street meeting by Peter Obi that, for me, is the most significant political development we've had in the past week. And then you also have a corresponding embrace of him in Washington. That is what matters. So leave all these people making noise. So far, he's been able to capture the imaginations of the youth across the country and Nigerians. That's what I'm looking at. If you're going to make an impact, as I said earlier, you can only do that on the major political parties. It may be very difficult to fight in there, but you fight in there. If Buhari has done his 8 years, of course, everybody's expecting it will now go to the south. That is the actions, not when you're talking about people just coming together because they can't find space in the major pool of the PDP and the APC. That's where I expect they should go and fight, because if you want to score any goal in any match, you must be inside the stadium. You cannot win outside the stadium. So all these peripheral parties, some of them don't even have a single councillor, telling me they're coming together to form an alliance. Alliance of what? Show energy. If it were parties that already have elected persons now trying to form some kind of a corporation, because the way the law is, it's too late for them to register a brand new party, then I will know. But then look at the men and their past. Do they look like people who can work with other people? Certainly not Kwankwaso. So leave those issues around. That's why you're seeing those people announcing that no, we have nothing to do with them. Let them keep trying. I don't see a third force. It was too late to happen today.
All right.
But how are you going to do it?
Okay, Catch, that's an interesting question. How are you going to do it? They're saying that of the parties in this coalition, they are adopting a single line candidate or single line of candidates, and they're adopting the Labour Party as a frontline party, which they will use for this purpose. It was Olusegun Obasanjo who, if I remember, first talked about, or most famously talked about this third force in Nigerian politics. Do you think, and I come back over to you, Nick Agule, do you think that this is possible ever? Because from what you both are saying, for the 2023 elections, it's PDP or APC. But going forward, will we see any other party, any other political force or group or coalition upstage these two parties maybe in the near future, the next election or two? Nick?
Yes, it's very possible. But there's a lot of homework that needs to be done. You can't just form a third force out of the blues. It has to start from the local levels to the state levels to the national levels. So it can be done. Another way that it can also be done is to have a popular candidate. Like Dr. Kachi is saying, Peter Obi has got support across the nation. I support him myself because of what he has done in the past. But I believe that he is in the wrong group because like I did predict on this program in the past, after the Governor Otom zoning committee gave a press conference to say that they have decided on the zoning formula. I was called to this program to analyze, and I did predict on this program that the zoning is going to be thrown open because some party chieftains in the north, like the Atikus, the Tambuas, the Sarakis, had already bought nomination forms and had them in their hands. And so there's no way the PDP will say they should dump those forms and they were zoning the ticket to the south or anywhere else. And that has come to pass. And what I'm predicting, again, on this program is that I don't see PDP handing the ticket to Peter Obi. I really don't think PDP will hand the ticket to Peter Obi because as much as Peter Obi is popular with Nigerians, he may not be as popular with the delegates, which
All
is
right,
what
Nika
matters at this
Gule, we
time.
have
So
to
coming
let
to
you-
a third force,
we have
if
to
the
let you
third
go now.
force picks someone like Peter Obi, a popular Nigerian, and hoist him as their presidential candidate, they could cause an upset.
Thank you.
In my own mind.
Thank you,
Yes.
Nika Gule. We have to let you go. Thank you so much for being part of the breakfast. We appreciate your time. Nika Gule is a public affairs analyst. We also have Dr. Kach Nunuju, who's also a political analyst and scientist, joining us this morning on the breakfast, looking at the possibility of having a third force, especially with the fact that you have political parties, about 7 of them coming up together. That's the much that we can take on the breakfast this morning. Thank you so much, fine gentlemen, for being part of the breakfast.
Yeah, thank you very much, and have a nice day.
If you missed out on any part of it, it's all right to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. I am Messi Boko. Have a fantastic day.
And I'm Kofi Bertels. Return tomorrow. Good morning.
Life can be fun and rewarding, but it also comes with some risk. As in business, you win some, you lose some. And that's why you need to be wise in the choices you make. It's like placing a bet. Again, you need to be wise. Wise in choosing an innovative platform with the highest market options and highest odds ever. That's why Winners Golden Bet, the leader in online, in-shop, virtual, and live sports betting, gives you enhanced platforms that offer you the best chances of winning. For betting on live soccer matches, live dog races, and virtual games. Winners Golden Bet is your best bet. Instant payment of winnings guaranteed. Play online or in any of our numerous shops nearest to you.
Hey guys, be wise. Play on Winners Golden Bet.
Winners Golden Bet, the wise choice.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on Plus TV Africa as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating
and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the Babin, I pay my rent. From the Babin, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
There is no voting on social media. To vote, you would require a permanent voter's card. To get your PVC, visit cvr.inecnigeria.org. Create your account with a valid email address and start the registration process. An activation link will be sent to you. Click on the link and activate your account. Fill out the form, pick and submit a convenient date and time for your biometrics. Print the application slip, which should have your QR code. On the appointed date, go to the nearest INEC office for your biometric capturing. Thereafter, you will get a registration slip to pick your permanent voter's card when ready. Get your PVC today. This message is from Plus TV Africa.
Good morning to you. This is the News Brief from Plus TV Africa. I am Justin Akadonye. President Muhammad Buhari has met the families of victims of the explosion in Kano, where he expressed his condolence. The president spoke at the palace of the Emir of Kano, where community leaders resident in Sabongari, Kano, including the Ezindibo Chief Nicholas Ibekwe, assembled. Now, suspected killers of the lawmaker representing the Agwata 2 constituency in the Anambra State House of Assembly, Okechukwu Okoye, have allegedly issued an ultimatum to politicians to immediately withdraw soldiers from the southeast within 48 hours. A letter to this effect was found beside the murdered lawmaker. However, the State Commissioner of Police, Echeng, while calling for better volunteering of information from the various communities to unravel the gunmen, dismissed the threat. Now saying that the gunmen were not unknown but known, Echeng vowed to bring the perpetrators to book. Away from security matters now. The House of Assembly and House of Representatives primaries in Lagos State earlier slated for Sunday, the 22nd of May. The reactions have continued to trail the cancellation of the House of Assembly and House of Representatives primaries in Lagos State earlier scheduled for Sunday, the 22nd of May. Plus TV News reports that an air of uncertainty, tension, and apprehension through the conduct of the primaries in the state as delegates and aspirants waited in various venues in their local government areas for the exercise to kick off. Even though members see the fallout as a normal occurrence with political processes, they also feel that the PDP could rewrite history and change the narrative in the 2023 elections.
There's no how this present Ulabalu will not continue. And if we cannot give Nigerians appropriate candidates, we don't expect any change at all. So for me, I believe that the party is working 24 hours every day to see to it that we give Nigerians appropriate and adequate candidates that will resuscitate not just Nigeria's economy, but the security situation in Nigeria at the moment. So I want to believe that the party PDP is working thoroughly to give Nigerians appropriate candidates.
The electoral bill gives everybody hope that anybody, even though you can come from anywhere and win the election. And more so, the parties, any party can get to power now. It's not necessary it must be PDP or APC. Once you are a popular person and people want you, they will vote for you.
As the People's Democratic Party held her State Assembly and House of Representatives primary election across the country, Ekiti State witnessed some violence as some party delegates disagreed with the result of the exercise in some places. The exercise monitored in Ido-Ekiti was rancor-free until the result of the exercise were announced as Babatunde Ajayi defeated the secretary of the PDP in Ekiti State, Fumi Oguns. In Aramoko, Ekiti, Larry Olayinka defeated Victor Adeyinka in the Reps primary poll, a situation which didn't go down well with supporters of Victor. Some of the candidates condemned the use of godfatherism and urged the leadership of the party to allow the will of the people to prevail.
What I would say is just believe in your cause. Believe in what you believe. Believe in people. And don't believe in the leaders. I'm sorry to say that. Because some so-called leaders are not with you. But the people that the one that are with you, they will drink water with you, they will sit with you, they will have a meeting with you. But the leader will never. So, henceforth, I will tell people out there, I know that anything can happen after here. I want to prove a point, and I've done that already. It's not about godfatherism. It's about the people in your environment.
Well, it's a family affair. We have seen now how it went transparently. Everybody voted, even they are, like you said, there will always be a pocket of complaint and all that. I give glory to God. I thank party members for this confidence that they have reposed in me. I will not disappoint them.
Now, the Ogun State members of the Governor's Elders Advisory Council are appealing to the APC political gladiators in Ogun West Senatorial District to remain calm and collectively work for the best of the zone. The leaders are worried about continued cheap blackmail, name-calling and false claims amongst aspirants for senatorial seats. According to them, if not addressed, these may spell doom for the party across all sessions of the electoral process.
So that we can go and win the election for the party and support the wonder governor of Imo State, who is doing extraordinarily well in the area of security, in the area of infrastructure, in the area of health and the environment. I did also tell them that if not that God brought the present administration led by Senator Hope Uzodimma, and we ran into this turbulence of unknown gunmen and women, this state would have collapsed.
I'm supposed to be neutral. I'm not supposed to support any aspirant. And I'm telling you without equivocation that I do not support any aspirant.
Yes.
By the special grace of God, our primaries, according to INEC guidelines, will be transparent, will be fair, free, and credible. And the best candidate will be.
Now, the Benue State Governor Samuel Otom, in the late hours of Monday, was declared the winner of the senatorial seat of Benue Northwest Senatorial Zone. He emerged as an unopposed candidate. The seat is currently occupied by Senator Okar Jev, who, through the support of Governor Otom, defeated the APC candidate and incumbent Minister of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, Senator George Akume, in the 2019 general election. Ahead of the primaries of the APC, stakeholders have called on the party's working committee to adopt Ikedi Hakim as a consensus candidate in Imo North Senatorial Zone. The stakeholders who made the appeal at the party secretariat Owerri said the call was based on the former governor's enviable qualities as a seasoned politician who always put the people's interest above personal considerations. The former governor, who used the opportunity to declare his interest before the state working committee of the party, says he is in the race to provide quality leadership for the zone.
Key stakeholders. We're going to discuss with the stakeholders and then change the approach a little bit, innovate the traditional pattern so that the new model will be such that our young, boys and girls, as soon as they get in, they have an exit plan. Not to get into school and spend, 10 years, 15 years, 6 years and all that. So my strategy will be to sit with ASU. They have a whole lot of demands. We'll look at it. We're going to discuss passionately and then set the right pace to address all those issues. And again, we need to produce knowledge-based economy. You know what I'm saying? So if you go into university, you pick the right course. As soon as you graduate, you have the right job. And also, we're going to also have vocational training centers. So if you want to exit certain type of career, it's easier for you to just exit based on available knowledge and all that. So we're applying science, we're applying technology. We're going to be having cutting-edge, teachers and all that, and then create a collaboration so that all the strikes and all that will be a thing of the past.
Meanwhile, the APC presidential aspirant Tane Jaka Ridge, while addressing delegates from Imo State, said his administration would produce what he described as a knowledge-based economy using science and technology. He says Nigeria, under his watch, will ensure private sector participation so as to increase production, thereby boosting the economy of the country.
The party's publicity secretary in the state, Chris Finebone, who debunked reports that the security men invited to disperse a crowd during the attack killed one of the protesters, and said that the mob made an attempt to stop materials from leaving the party secretariat. He said the party invited the security personnel to avoid a repeat of what happened to the party in Rivers State in 2018.
Reflecting deeply on the incident, we have come to the conclusion that the mob was deliberately assembled and sent to block the party gates as early as 6 a.m. to ensure that materials for the congresses were not sent to the 319 wards for the congresses. Unknown to them, there was no such materials to be moved to the wards apart from a small slip for recording results in each ward. We believe the police account that no one died, despite that the patience of the police was stretched to its elastic limit by the violent conduct of the mob. The sponsors of the mob are still flying the narrative that congresses did not take place, but much of the world now know that that is not the case.
Finebone also said that the party is fully ready and prepared for the primaries, having conducted the Delegates Congress.
Much to the disappointment of the mob and their sponsors, the World and FDA Congresses took place peacefully and transparently across the 319 wards, fully observed by officials of the Independent Electoral Commission, INEC, and security officials, except one. And that one exception is in Asaritor LGA, where the returning officers and Eagles of Asaritor could not do their work because of violence. Despite the unfortunate incident on Wednesday, we believe that our march towards participating in the next stage of the electioneering calendar, which is the primaries, will proceed at pace without let. We hope to ultimately build on this momentum to achieve our overall objective of winning the 2023 elections.
Party leaders from the 20 local government areas of the state attended the briefing.
We apologize for that slight mix-up in that report. The United States government has promised to assist INEC in building capacity towards the conduct of credible polls in the forthcoming 2023 general elections. The United States Ambassador to Nigeria, Mary Beth Leonard, made a disclosure in Yola during a courtesy call on Adamawa State INEC Resident Electoral Commissioner Kasim Gaidam. The ambassador explained that the American government is much concerned that the election umpire conduct credible polls that will be acceptable to all stakeholders. Mary Leonard also partook in the AUN matriculation ceremony, where she challenged the nation's youth to fully participate in the forthcoming general elections. Slight hitch. We'll take a quick break and return with more. Stay with us.
This is it for upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
We apologize for that. We'll bring you details of that report in our subsequent bulletins. As Nigeria prepares for another round of elections in 2023, citizens have continued to express their views on what their expectations are. And that's on Street Views. Take a listen.
Well, basically, at the moment, the situation in town, the situation of the country, determines the wave of how an election goes. The government of the day are so much messed up, and even the blind and the deaf in the society can tell. So, for 2023, I believe that it's going to be about the corporate need of the society beyond individualisms. Because if we don't get it right this time as a corporate society, we cannot get it out again. So basically, the performance of the present government will determine the result of this 2023 election.
Hopefully, I'm expecting the power to change from the ruling party to the other
party, which is PDP, because I think every part of everywhere corner of the country, they are tired of the ruling party, which is APC, because instead of things to like being stabilized a way, it's getting too hard for people to, so people can't bear it anymore. That's my views on it.
Yes, we've been hearing that too, but people are tired of suffering. So I believe people will come out to vote for their choice. That will really make peace, because imposing people on party members have always brought menace to our society. When people vote for their right choice and the right choice wins, it brings peace to the world. So I believe at this election, people will vote for their right choice.
And now to other parts of Africa. The outgoing president of Somalia, Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo, has handed over power to the new president, Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, who will now have to steer the horn of the African country in eradicating insecurity caused by the Islamist group Al-Shabaab. Now, the newly elected president described the event as historic and a day to always remember, as he solicited the support of all Somali people wherever they are. Now, Mohamed beat Farmajo in the Horn of African countries election held on the 15th of May, garnering 214 votes against the latter's 110 votes in the third round. And outside the continent, asylum seekers marched towards the Tijuana-San Diego border in a demonstration against a border policy that has kept thousands from being able to request protection in the United States. Now, the demonstrators chanted, "We migrants, we are not criminals," as they walked from a nearby migrant shelter to a pedestrian bridge near the border entry. Thousands of migrants have waited for months in northern Mexico to enter the United States to apply for protection. Now, Monday was supposed to mark the moment when the U.S. government finally dropped a pandemic-era policy that had largely prevented them from seeking asylum in the United States. However, a Louisiana court on Friday said that the U.S. authorities were unable to immediately proceed with plans to lift restrictions that empowered U.S. agents at the Mexico-U.S. border to turn back migrants without a chance to seek asylum. In business news now, cashless transactions rose by 44% year-on-year to hit 117.33 trillion naira in the first 4 months of 2022, and that's according to data from the Nigeria Interbank Settlement System, NIBS. From January 2022 to April this year, 117.33 trillion naira was processed through electronic channels, which is 35.79 trillion naira more than 81.54 trillion naira that was processed in the corresponding period of 2021. Cashless transactions are monitored on the NIBS through the Nigeria Instant Payment System and point-of-sales terminals. In January, 27.22 trillion naira was processed electronically in the nation. This increased to 27.76 trillion naira in February, 35.52 trillion naira in March, and 29.84 trillion naira in April. In January 2021, 18.99 trillion naira was processed electronically, 18.79 trillion naira was processed in February, 22.55 trillion naira was processed in March, and 21.19 trillion naira was processed in April. In entertainment news now, a parade of expert witnesses testified on Amber Heard's behalf on Monday, saying that Johnny Depp's behavior was consistent with narcissism and rebuffing a number of his claims. Orthopedic surgeon Dr. Richard Moore testified that photographs and x-rays of Depp's finger, which was severed in Australia, could not have been injured by a vodka bottle, which Depp claimed that Heard threw at him. Now, Moore said the clinical presentation and the radiographic images showed a crush injury.
What, if any, record evidence do you have that correlates with Mr. Depp being narcissistic?
Well, I do think that the fact that he thought that Amber owed him, Ms. Heard owed him.
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled. Thank you. Go ahead.
The fact that Ms. Heard owed him and only wanted to be together with him because of his fame is an example of that. I do think the jealousy aspects are an example of that.
And finally, now talking tennis. Wimbledon's decision to ban Russian and Belarusian players from this year's tournament following the invasion of Ukraine was wrong and lacked respect. That's according to world number 1 Novak Djokovic. The All England Lawn Tennis Club took the decision following Russia's invasion in February, which Moscow calls a special military operation. Now, Belarus has been a key staging area for the invasion. As a result, Wimbledon was stripped of its ranking point by ATP and WTA tours over its decision to exclude players from the two countries. The rankings determine a player's ability to enter tennis events and receive seedings.
Well, on a personal level, of course, without getting a chance to play and defend, my 4,000 points, I'm going to drop them this year, Australia and Wimbledon. So, of course, on a personal, individual level, it's I've been very negatively affected by that. But I've been speaking with management and the president of ATP and some of the council members actually in the last few days, and I think collectively, I'm glad that players got together with ATP, the governing body of the men's tennis, and showed to the Grand Slam that when there is a mistake happening, and there was from the Wimbledon side, then we have to show that.
And sports news wraps it for us on the news brief. For more stories, please follow us on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. Visit our website at www.plustvafrica.com and do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. I am Justin Akadonye. Many thanks for watching.
There is no voting on social media. To vote, you would require a permanent voter's card. To get your PVC, visit cvr.inecnigeria.org. Create your account with a valid email address and start the registration process. An activation link will be sent to you. Click on the link and activate your account. Fill out the form, pick and submit a convenient date and time for your biometrics. Print the application slip, which should have your QR code. On the appointed date, go to the nearest INEC office for your biometric capturing. Thereafter, you will get a registration slip to pick your permanent voter's card when ready. Get your PVC today. This message is from Plus TV Africa.
How can we have peace without justice?
Plus Politics. It's not just another political conversation, it's about keeping you in the know. The relevant interviews, asking the tough questions to those that matter. Get the answers you need. Does it mean that the people who were injured, people who were shot at, those who were involved in that stampede are not going to get justice?
It is unfortunate, it is sad that we have a government of deaf and dumb.
Analysis from top experts.
The last election was not really an election.
We feel that Obasanjo has a very special place in his heart for hating Ijaw people.
I think it really boils down to two things. One, trust and accountability.
Plus Politics, every weeknight at 7 p.m. on Plus TV Africa.
is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the Babin, I pay my rent. On the Babin, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
For upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's Tea Time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect am. If you no talk, dem go beat you. Na 2,500 they pay.
Plus Sports on Plus TV Africa on a Monday. Welcome on the show. My name is Wally Scott. Now, too much drama over the weekend in the world of sports, especially football. Now, Manchester City retained the Premier League title in the most dramatic of fashion as they hauled themselves back from 2-0 down to beat Aston Villa 3-2 with 3 goals in the final 15 minutes on Sunday. Ike Gundogan came off the bench to score twice, with Rodri also on target as Pep Guardiola's men held off Liverpool's title charge to win the league by a point. In scenes reminiscent of the first of City's now 6 league titles in 11 seasons, when Sergio Kun Aguero scored the 93rd minute winner